Have you ever looked at your life and wondered how your past, every turn, every loss, and every unexpected detour could possibly fit in what God is calling you to do right now? Welcome back to Faith and Work. Today's conversation is one that I believe God has been orchestrating for a long time. I'm sitting down with my friend, Elizabeth Sullivan. Her story is one of resilience and faith and redemption. Elizabeth grew up in Russia, later re-entered life into America, and then walked through some really deep tragedy in college. Seasons that could have easily defined her by pain alone, but instead God used every chapter, every heartbreak, and every transition, every unanswered question to equip her for the work that she's doing right now as a licensed therapist. In this episode, we talk honestly about identity, loss, calling, and how God wastes absolutely nothing. So grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and lean in with us. This is a story about healing, purpose, and what it looks like when God connects the dots, sometimes even years later. I have a sweet friend with me here this week, Elizabeth Sullivan. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I feel like we need to have a disclaimer on the front of this episode because as we are recording upstairs, the boys are all downstairs in the basement doing only the Lord knows what they're doing down there. Probably a little PS5, a little TV, a little football. So if you hear any extra background noise, just know that it is the men in our life downstairs. Yes. So we're up here and they're having a great time down there. Elizabeth, would you mind just starting off telling everyone a little bit about yourself and kind of a little bit about what you do?
Yeah. So my name's Elizabeth Sullivan. I am married to Brandon Sullivan, who will also be on the podcast at some point.
Yes.
And we just had a little baby about 7 months ago, little Lucy. And I am a licensed professional counselor. I work at Ebenezer Counseling Services here in Knoxville. And how much more in depth?
No, that's good. Yes, we will. We will. For you, one of the things that I love talking about with you is all the stories that you have about growing up in another country.
Yeah.
So could you explore that a little bit about how it was growing up in another country and a little bit about how your faith was even shaped growing up in cultures that were not maybe necessarily normal?
Yeah. So my parents were church planners in Moscow, Russia, and we lived in Moscow for 10 years.
Wow.
We moved there when I was about a year old, maybe slightly less. I can't remember. And I absolutely loved growing up in Russia.
Yeah.
I loved living overseas. I went to surprisingly, there was a Christian school in Moscow. It was an international school.
Okay. Yeah.
We moved there in 93, so it was kind of after communism fell and the wall came down. And so the country was being flooded with missionaries.
Yeah.
It's been a closed country before. And so the school kind of came from that. So there was a pretty vibrant community of mostly Americans. There was a lot of South Koreans as well doing missions work.
Wow.
And then at the school, there were people like business people as well, like business kids and stuff. And so that was like a really big piece of our community in Russia. And I feel like that school really was really nurtured the foundations of my faith. I came to Christ at a pretty young age. I remember, praying in my room when I was probably 5 or 6. Expected Jesus to come into my heart with at least some glitter or something like Disney, and I was a little bit disappointed when and so I feel like my faith was really really nurtured during that time, but I don't really feel like it became my own personal faith until I moved to the States when I was 11 years old. I think growing up as a missionary kid in Russia, I think gave me just a larger view of God's world, as people across, across the world. And I don't know, I just get really excited. It's just so cool to see God's work from a global perspective. We would, connect with other missionaries in other countries at different conferences occasionally that were generally in the same organization that we were with. And that was just always so exciting to me. And so it's just still a passion that I have of supporting missions.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's still something that I think, I support. I always thought that maybe the Lord would call me back overseas. I don't think this is that season of life.
Yeah, right.
And I don't know if that's still in the cards for me, but that was a season. I was really disappointed as an 11-year-old when I found
Yeah.
out we were moving to the States.
Oh,
I absolutely adored living in Russia. And
yeah.
we had to leave the country every once in a while to renew our visas. And so we traveled all over Eastern Europe and a couple
Yeah.
other places, and I just absolutely adored all
Yeah.
of it. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
How do you feel like growing up with having Russia as a foundation and living in other countries, how has that impacted even what you do in your 9-to-5 job right now? How do you think that's impacted you?
I think I have gotten good at connecting with people,
Yeah.
like fairly quickly because time was never really on my side.
Yeah.
You know, missionaries would come in and out of Russia for various
Yeah.
reasons. And then we would come to the States every so often. And so I'd have a couple of friends in the States that I'd really only see
Yeah.
for a little bit at a time, sometimes a couple of months, sometimes less, a few times a year or every couple of years. I think I got really good at just connecting with people quickly, but also just having an eye for people who feel like they're a little bit on the outside. What was hard for me, like in Russia, wasn't Russian. And so I would stick out as an American, which at the time I loved.
Yeah, of course.
I really loved that. And then when I turned 11 and we moved to America, I started to go to public school in middle school.
Oh, wow.
Which was terrible. And I stuck out in a different way. So in Russia, I was the American girl.
Yeah.
In America, I was the Russian girl. It was not cool.
It's not cool. Oh.
And so, and it was interesting too, because we talked about this, I don't know if you're familiar with the term third culture kid, TCK. And so I'm a third culture kid because I haven't lived in America my whole life. Russia is a big part of my identity.
Yeah.
So I'm not fully American, but I'm also not Russian. I'm definitely more American than I was when I was growing up.
Yeah.
But as a TCK, like what was hard about that transition to the States is people would expect me to know like a lot of the pop culture and stuff because I don't have an accent.
Yeah.
There's no like indication that I'm not actually American.
Right.
And so that was hard. I just felt really like misunderstood and not seen. Really embarrassed a lot in middle school because I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
What people were talking about.
Now, did you speak Russian?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The first few years that we lived in Russia, my parents kind of were really intentional about making relationships with Russian people because the school that I mentioned kind of became its own little community, its own little world in Moscow. And so it was really easy to get sucked into just hanging out with other Americans and other expats. And so they were really intentional about not moving to that part of the city. And then eventually once we started school, it just made sense to move over there. But anyway, so we had some really, really close Russian friends. I actually went to Russian school for 3 years. They kind of have like a kindergarten program where it's like pre-K, like daycare, pre-K, and kindergarten. It's a 3-year kind of thing. And so I did that. It was called Детский сад. I did Детский сад, and then their style of education is just really different from what is over here. And it just wasn't really working for me. I was coming home in the like 3rd year kindergarten and just crying. It's a very shame-based culture. And my mom was like, "This is kindergarten. You're 6. Like it shouldn't be this bad. I think it might be time to go over to the Christian school." And so that's when we started that.
Okay.
But yeah, so I feel like, I think I'm answering your questions. I think that just that whole experience like helped me. It helps me see the people who don't feel like they quite fit in, or
because you empathy for them too, because you felt it yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
So you can identify with that. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the next question I have here is really looking at how did your faith influence decisions, especially knowing how mental health can be both beautiful and heavy. And this is kind of going back from now to your day to day from then how you grew up. But how does your faith impact that? Because hearing all of that and the stuff that you hear on the daily can be heavy. So how does your faith help you carry that load?
I don't think I could do it without the Lord. I've wanted to be a counselor for a lot of my life, but I kind of put it off a lot. I was afraid.
Yeah.
I thought, gosh, I want to help people, but that sounds like too dark, too heavy.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could handle that. I'm a pretty positive person.
Yeah.
And so I was really intimidated by it until I went through some really dark times myself, and I realized, okay, the Lord was with me in this.
Yes.
Unfortunately and fortunately, I feel like I have capacity to sit with others when they're at their lowest as well. And I think I couldn't do that without knowing that the Lord is going to redeem all of the hardship and the brokenness, and seeing how He has redeemed hardship, some of it in my life. But I think this time that I'm talking about, that I have specifically in mind, was in college. I lost a really, really dear friend of mine very suddenly. She had lupus, which was an autoimmune disorder, and died actually on her birthday.
Oh my goodness.
From a heart attack. Yeah, it was really awful to lose her. I was in my freshman year of college, so I had just kind of settled in, getting friends and everything, but it was weird because no one knew her. I knew her from high school. Nobody really knew me yet. So that was just a really, really difficult time. And I knew she was sick, but you just don't expect someone's gonna go.
Right.
Especially on their birthday. And so that's actually when I started going to counseling for the first time. And working through that, just kind of, the Lord used that experience to cultivate much deeper waters eventually.
For our listeners, we had to pause recording because a tape measure was coming
being shoved under
the door, texting David to come get his offspring up here. So anyway, this episode might take 3 hours to record, but we're going to laugh a lot doing it. So it's going to be fine. Anyway, the question I think we were talking about before we had to pause was talking about how your upbringing shaped your understanding of people. And you were talking about how you guys re-entered the country.
Yes. Yeah. So, So we kind of knew that we were, a lot of missionaries and a lot of TCKs or people that just work overseas often have to move around really suddenly. Really, like not planned. And so we had the luxury of being able to kind of know for a year before we left Russia. And part of that process was we went through a reentry program. And I feel like that's rare and really, really important. And I think that's the first time that, I think my parents were really good about in that year of kind of saying goodbye. We called it the year of saying goodbye. Which is awesome. Just kind of the value of naming what matters and the important process of grieving. We loved Russia and I loved my school and I was really bummed that we were moving back to the States. And so we got to, my parents were like, let's say goodbye to this, our favorite places, spend time with family, or let's spend time with friends. And so then we went through the reentry program, which definitely just put even more emphasis on, I think that's the first time I saw a feelings chart, how are you feeling? And just kind of expanded on kind of what my parents had encouraged us to do, just kind of talking through. I think through that experience as well, my parents were really open about how it was hard for them. And I think that's what I think is important as well. So I think just going through that as a family, when we moved to the States, I remember for many years, I felt really lonely. It was really hard to connect with people my own age because of all the experiences that I'd had. And we'd moved to rural North Carolina, and so I had moved.
That's a quite different culture than Russia. Growing up in North Carolina in a small town, I can't even imagine going from Russia to small town North Carolina.
It was brutal.
We
moved to Charlotte as a transition year, but really that felt tiny, and then we moved to even more rural North Carolina. And, I was 11 and 12, and I liked to brag at the time that I had been to more countries than I was years old.
Oh, wow.
There was nobody else who would know how to react to that. What other 12-year-old knows what to, even how to follow up with a statement like that. And so we just were really close as a family. And I think it was really, really important, really special that the Lord blessed me with a family where we could talk about how we were missing Russia. It wasn't like, oh, well, God called us back to America, so we can't be unhappy with that. It was the Lord's called us back to America, and this is hard. We miss our friends and family. And the reentry program just kind of also, just expanded on that more. This is the first time I learned the term TCK, and it helped me make sense of what I was going through at the time. Of just hey, this is how I'm slightly different, but that's also something to be celebrated.
That's beautiful. So you've talked about where you grew up and how you grew up and how that changed, and then going through college, and then now knowing what you do now for a job. So kind of connect some of those dots of when you were in college and losing your friend and walking through. That's a deep loss. So young. And then how did you kind of make sense of that in your mind and connect it to what you're doing now?
So my friend's name was Ariane, and I don't know, it's just so beautiful the way that the Lord does redeem pain because she
Yeah.
was such a beautiful presence in my life, and she loved the Lord
Oh,
so
wow.
much. And so she was in my high school, just such a like big personality
Yeah.
and so well loved. I went to a pretty small high school.
Yeah.
And so I love that the Lord, like, she's still part of my life.
Yeah.
I went to counseling for the first time because of her, because of losing her.
Yeah.
And she's still like, yeah, she's still
Yeah.
part of my life and still part of God's story
Yeah.
for my life. So losing her was kind of the main introduction to counseling. And honestly, it was really awkward going to counseling
Yes.
for the first time.
Yeah.
I had signed up. This was totally the Lord. I had signed up for counseling because I was a freshman in college. They're like, go to counseling, go to counseling, go to counseling. And I was like, well, I've always just wondered what it's like.
Yeah.
I signed up like the week before Ariane passed away.
Oh, wow.
And so on all my paperwork, I was just like, I don't know, nothing's wrong. I just want to see what this is
Wow.
like. And then I go into my first session, just obviously like in
Yes.
tears and shock and rage and everything.
Yes.
Like, yeah, the counselor was probably not ready for it.
Like, this was supposed to be an easy patient.
Since I filled that out. Major
Yes.
stuff. So yeah, I still like, I think now I still enjoy doing grief work. And I think it's just beautiful, like even I absolutely love what I do. It's such good work and holy work and hard, but such an honor to be able to see the Lord at work in people's lives.
Yeah.
So incredible to see how people grow and thrive, even in hardship or after hardship. And so I think like that's a way that I see the Lord redeeming Ariane's loss, which felt so big. She again, just such a bright light gone.
Yeah.
It was hard to wrap my mind around. He has redeemed her loss in some ways by putting me on a path that I really enjoyed, and it kind of equipped me to do this work as well.
Yeah. Starting out as a therapist early on, how do you feel like, were there moments of starting out where you felt like this is too much, or this, I'm in a little bit too deep here. I don't know if I can do that. How did God meet you in those moments?
I still feel like that sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes things can, come into my office and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm in a Bible study. We're talking about breath prayers recently. And my breath prayer at work is, Lord help.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is so gracious, I think, to meet us. I think what I'm reminded of in those moments, and I definitely felt that many times along the way, starting out. I mean, I've only been practicing for 5 years, so still starting out in some ways. But I think there's a phrase that I reminded myself of a lot early on, especially, and that is that the Lord can work because of us, but also in spite of us.
Yeah.
And, even my brokenness and the ways that I don't do well in a session or don't respond correctly or don't, try out an intervention properly or whatever, or mishear something, right? Like the Lord can still work through that. And so that just really gave me definitely, that doesn't mean that I just relax. I was like, oh, God can take care of it anyway. Like, no, I absolutely do my best for the client. It's so helpful to remember that the Lord is the one that is doing the healing. It's not me. Regardless of whether the person across from me actually knows the Lord or not. Yeah. Ultimately, the source of healing is from him. It's not me. Yeah. And so that just provides a lot of freedom. And I think that's where I can see my work as an honor. And just from like a self-care perspective as well, like a person's progress or lack thereof or whatever isn't a reflection of what I'm doing with them. Right. It's just a very, very small part of their life and of their healing.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned earlier that you're a new mom. Yeah. So that's so exciting. And we love baby Lucy. How has being a new mom kind of deepened your empathy and understanding in your practice?
Man, a lot. Yeah. I feel like I unlocked this like new level of motherhood, and I totally look at the moms that I see, whether I know them or not, totally differently. Like I had not looked at moms the same way before. Now I'm like, girl, how much sleep did you get? Yes. And, like, did your kid throw a tantrum today? Like, what else are you carrying? Because you're carrying a lot. So I think it helps. I think I've become way more effective with the mothers that I do work with.
Yeah.
Because it was something I was aware of previously, but now I guess like diagnostically, there are more questions that I can ask and more intentional like things that I'm checking on.
Oh, yeah.
That
I
wouldn't have
remember.
thought of before.
Yeah. There were so many times when maybe someone else in our couples class would have a baby and they would ask people to take meals. And so we would, take meals. And because of working full time, it might be like Chick-fil-A drive-through that would take them, or whatever. And then after we had a baby, I realized how important those meals were. And it didn't feel like a big deal. I thought, man, I'm not really doing a whole lot. I'm just literally taking Chick-fil-A. Like I'm not really helping. And then after we had Jackson and then Eli, and if anyone texts and said, hey, I'm going to bring by Chick-fil-A. And it was like, thank you so much because it is like 5 o'clock and there's laundry and spit up and diapers and dishes and I don't even know. And someone else needs a bath. And it was so much chaos in the beginning. And it's just, it's so overwhelming. Those meals people bring over to new moms, like those are life-giving. Like those are so helpful.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I get it. I definitely feel like I didn't realize the struggle that new moms went through until I was one. And then I thought, man, I wish I could go back and show a little bit more empathy to people that I had known earlier. And I just thought, oh, they had a baby. They're back at work or they're back at church. Surely, they're all good now. And I had no idea.
Well, Brandon and I, like, we really appreciate you guys. And like, I remember the meal that you guys brought over.
Yeah.
And you brought over all like, keys.
Yes.
So like more, like it was like the meal and other things. Yeah. We just felt really supported by you guys.
Oh, we love you.
Yeah.
Brandon and Elizabeth, when David first started teaching in his current school, he said, hey, I want to introduce you to this guy, Brandon. And I think you guys just started dating or you were almost engaged. I forget what stage you were.
I don't remember.
And so I met Brandon and there's not a lot of male teachers, especially male elementary teachers. And so they were both male elementary teachers and they were like two peas in a pod and they were just talking and laughing and they were talking about theology and they were just like instant buddies, and David didn't have that a lot, like in a school environment. He has friends, but in a school environment, other teachers, it's mostly women, which he gets along with, but it's not like they're buddies, And so anyway, then I got to know Brandon, then I met you, and then going to y'all's wedding and now meeting baby Lucy. It's just been the sweetest friendship. Yeah. And it's fun. I feel like, it's fun to, like, we have kids that go on play dates. I feel like our husbands go on play dates, And it's really nice that we like each other and we can get along and we can talk about Russia or living in another country or all the things, ministry. Both of our dads were in full-time vocational ministry. So it's we can kind of talk and on the side and the guys have their whole educational deep discussions. Yeah. And we dive in sometimes. But games take a lot longer because we want to talk and the guys want to play something competitive. But anyway, the next question I wanted to ask you was, what have you learned about grace, both for yourself and from others in this season of just juggling so much? So what have you learned about just showing grace, living in grace with life that has changed so much, adding a baby to the middle of work and faith? How has all of that changed for you?
I feel like I'm still in process. Like people are like, will ask me certain questions of like, and I'm like, I think I'm learning.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, your question makes me also think about some of my favorite research and stuff that I like to implement is about self-compassion. It's kind of like one of those. Well, anyway, so there's a lot of really awesome research about the effectiveness of self-compassion, which I think ultimately is having grace for yourself. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're just letting yourself go. Right. There's kind of the backbone to self-compassion. Yeah. Like, hey, it's going to be best for you to not eat the whole pint of ice cream even though you want to. You've had a bad day. And you're hungry. Right. Yeah. Or you're just tired and you don't want to get off the couch and you're hungry, so you want to eat this. It's like you're not going to enjoy that. And so, I think that self-compassion research is even more deepened for Christians with grace. Right? Yeah. So it's really humbling, but I don't know. I'm not perfect at it, for sure, but trying to have grace, I think Definitely finding encouragement from family and friends and trying to remember that I don't have to do it all.
Yeah.
I'm definitely more of like I want to get everything done. Like, maybe
Yeah.
not perfectionist, but I have pretty high standards for myself,
Yeah.
I think. And so I have to remember, like, hey, really, ultimately, even though I love my job, my priority right now is my daughter. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a mom.
Right.
And I'm a mom first, and I want to be available to her, even if that means the house is gross, which is hard.
Right. It's so hard.
Yeah. Like,
It's
I have
so
to,
hard.
yeah. I don't know. So I don't know if I'm really answering your question, because I feel like that's something that I'm still like in process of, like, how do I have grace for myself and give grace to my
Yeah.
all the different things that
I feel like that's something I've had to learn and then relearn.
Yeah.
Like, I'll learn it and I'll get confident in it, and I can rest in it. Like, okay, I can rest in the fact that I'm going to go to bed tonight because it's late and I need to sleep and the kitchen's not clean. I'm good with that. And then, a couple weeks later, something will happen and I'm like, and the kitchen's not clean and the laundry's not. And then it all feels like it piles up, And so there's moments where it feels like I can live in this. I can live in, stuff not being done. And then other times it feels harder.
Yeah.
And I think some of that could be like hormonal. Some of that could be just life in general. Yeah. Sleep, life. Yes. And just when other things in life pile on, I feel like for me, the more like slices are in my pie, the less quality each part of me gets, whether it's my faith walk with God of saying like, okay, we're going to cut that thin because I've got this to do and this to do and this to do. And the more slices in my pie, there'll be times when Dave and I will just look at our calendar and say, okay, we're going to have to cut some stuff because we are not there for each other. Our kids are getting less of us. We are getting frustrated with stupid small things. We all need more sleep. We need to take some stuff out of our calendar and just take some deep breaths, and it's hard. And I feel like that's something we've had to learn. And then different seasons will get busier and we'll have to kind of come back and kind of go back to square one with something you've already learned, but you've forgotten, and it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to do. How do you keep your own heart and mind in a healthy rhythm when you hear so much heaviness from people? How do you not take that home with you? How do you do that? What's a practice that you do to not kind of let that heaviness stay with you?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, as I said earlier, like, the heaviness was something that I was really intimidated by going into this.
Right.
That's something that I always really listened to and grabbed. It was discussed in classes and stuff. So I have a lot of different practices. Some of it is, it sounds kind of boring, but honestly, like, doing my documentation somehow, like, closes that tab.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Not to sound impersonal, right? Like everybody's things are, these situations and things that we're talking about in session are incredibly important. And this is my job.
Right.
And so I have to leave it.
Right.
So I kind of close that tab sometimes just to get it done.
Yeah.
Which is really handy when I haven't done my notes.
I
find myself still thinking about, because I haven't like conceptualized it,
right,
summarized it, and kind of pushed close. And so that helps. Sometimes I'll do some like physical things in my office. I'll start to like carry a lot of tension in my body, right? And so I'll just like shake it out in my office.
Yeah.
A lot of prayer.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like 5 years in, I'm not carrying quite as much home with me as I was early on.
Yeah.
When everything was so new and every like presentation of anxiety,
yes,
like, everything is new.
Yes.
Now I have more experience where I'm like, okay, I've seen this before. I know how to take care of this. I've seen this through before. But there's still things that like, oof, like,
yeah,
that was really heavy. And just stick with you. And so, a lot of prayer goes into that. Sometimes I'll imagine, I think my counselor told me this tip. I'll imagine putting the client comes into my office, right, and they're dropping off their problems in my office. Yeah. For me, what they don't realize, if they have a bag or something with them, I pretend that I'm putting it back into their bag.
Oh, that's good. I love that.
So then I watch them walk out the door, and ultimately that's what's happening, right? Like, the Lord goes with them out my door, live their lives, and they come back and they tell me about it, about what happened. And so that really helps. Sometimes I'll picture my office door closed, of like, nope, that stuff is at work. Like, I don't need to worry about that right now.
Right.
I'll get that. I'll get to that one.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
fun things.
That's awesome.
The little techniques.
Because some people that you talk to are believers, and then some are not. Sometimes you can't really talk about your faith. So how can the nature of God kind of stay with you, even when you can't talk about him in those words?
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's maybe like two questions. Like, how do I share the Lord with people who are believers? And then how do I share the Lord with people who aren't?
Right.
Sometimes with words and sometimes not. Yeah. What's cool about living where we live, it's a very like Christian culture. So a lot of people are like familiar with Christianity. So a lot of people that I work with have like personal relationships with Christ. And some people are just kind of like culturally Christian, and they go to our place because they're like, oh, well, it's good. We're all from the same background, right? But a lot of people, I'm surprised sometimes at how little people actually know the scriptures.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful when a client indicates that they are, like, I never bring it up if there's not already interest.
Right. Yeah.
Which is kind of like an ethical thing that I have to abide by.
Yeah.
But there's been some really beautiful moments where clients are struggling in their relationship with the Lord, and they bring it up, and then I'm able to share God's promises. Some of my favorite verses, which I can't remember the reference right now, but I'm talking about how the Lord is with those who are Christian spirit. There's another verse I think about. He saves our tears in a bottle.
Yeah, I love that.
And sometimes I'll just pull it out of like, hey, I want to share this with you real quick. That can be really, really meaningful. I think for the people who are not Christians and don't want to discuss faith, I remember the Lord's like patience and kindness with us.
Yeah.
Of just his love. There's a concept in counseling that's really important, is having unconditional positive regard for your client.
Yeah.
And that's a lot easier to think about when we're loved with an unconditional love of the Lord.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know how the concept of unconditional positive regard translates for those who don't have the Lord.
Right.
Because sometimes, I mean, you know, as a counselor, you're trying to make sure that you're not the center of attention in a session at all.
Right.
But sometimes you have your own reactions.
Yes.
You might be kind of frustrated of like, listen, I've mentioned like a solution and you're still complaining that no one's giving you solutions, and I'm right here, right? And so just remembering that the Lord is so much more gracious.
Yeah. Man, so much more.
When we're like, you know, saying all these silly things, and he's like, I'm right here. Like, I've been here the whole time. So just remembering his kindness and grace. And again, so much prayer. I pray for my believing clients and my unbelieving clients, before session, after session. Yeah, just including him in the process, because he is part of it.
He's part of it. And that kind of takes me into my next question. How do you see your work as part of, when we think about God's redemption story in the whole Bible, and we think about him coming back, and you mentioned him redeeming even parts of your story, redeeming parts of your grief. How do you see your work as part of God's redemption story?
I think it's definitely part of it. Being able to see peace restored, hope restored. A lot, I mean, some things don't get tied up with a pretty bow, but it's a really awesome day when sometimes it is. You know, I love it when a client's like, you know, I don't really think I need to come anymore. And they're like kind of afraid that they're going to offend me. And I'm like, I mean, I'm really going to miss seeing you. Right. But I'm actually so happy to hear that. Like, I want to work myself out of the job. And so those are awesome days. It's really, really exciting. And so we just kind of spend the rest of the session reflecting on how this person has grown and what they learned and what they can take with them. And then just rejoicing that whatever they brought in initially has kind of come to some resolution. It's a good day.
That is really good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think it's really neat too when you think about people coming in with this, you know, this physical, not really physical, but this load, this metaphorical load on their back. And when you think about people in our lives that God places in our lives, mental health professionals that can help with that. And when we think about what God does for us and taking away the load of our sin, and then sometimes we add to our own load of, you know, frustration or perfectionism or whatever it is. And there's different people in our life that can help us with that.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes as believers, I feel like because we don't have this load of our sin anymore, we feel like every other load that we have is up to us. And it's not all up to us.
Yeah.
You know, he can save us from our sin and he can save us from our present.
Yeah.
You know, and just because we're not out there committing murders, you know, doesn't mean that everything else we have to fix all on our own. And so when people come in our life, like counselors and therapists, it's a beautiful thing when it's like, I've got this load and I don't know what to do with it. And I don't feel equipped. And there's people that are trained and they're passionate and that want to help us with that load.
Yeah.
I think it's just a beautiful way of the body of Christ, just helping each other.
Yeah.
You know, and I love
I
that.
think there's like redemption in sometimes just the interpersonal process of connecting with a therapist. Unfortunately, it's kind of an exception. It's not, generally it doesn't happen very often when people are like, okay, you know what, the thing that I came in for, we're done. It does occasionally, but like most of the time, there's been people I've seen for years where either more life has happened or we're still working through the hurts go years and years deep, you know? And so sometimes we don't see resolution in that or much movement. I mean, I think I annoy my clients sometimes because I celebrate the tiniest of wins.
Yes.
And they're not small.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, they're like, okay, this happened. Are you proud of me? I'm like, yes, that's awesome. But anyway, like what you were saying.
Yeah.
I think sometimes there's a redemption in having like a corrective emotional experience. For a lot of people who've been really, really wounded by others, right? It can be such a redeeming thing to have something that holds space and just like sits in the pit with you.
Yes.
And I think that's a form of redemption.
Yes.
You know, like the Lord Jesus went to the pits of hell, right? For us and to be with us. And so even when we don't see like tangible healing in the way that some of my clients would like, how we can still see redemption and hope being restored in connection with other people being restored. Trauma can really sever connection with other people.
Yes.
And sin and brokenness, obviously, right? Child's part of that. So
yeah. Oh, that is so well said. Thank you, Elizabeth. As we close out today's episode, I hope you're reminded of this truth. Your past is not something that God is trying to erase. It's something that he often uses to prepare you. Elizabeth's story is such a powerful reminder that even the chapters we wouldn't choose can become the very tool that God uses to bring healing, wisdom, and hope to others. Maybe for you, it's not counseling, but it is something. A role, a calling, a space where your story matters more than you realize. If this episode resonated with you, I want to encourage you to share it with a friend, especially someone who's wrestling with their past or questioning their path or wondering if God can really redeem what they've walked through. As you reflect this week, ask yourself, what has God already carried me through that he might now be inviting me to carry forward for someone else? Thank you for spending time with us this week. Join us next week as we continue these honest conversations about faith, work, and walking out God's calling right where we are.